The Church Life Africa initiative has organized the second edition of her youth conference to draw attention of youths and other young people from Nigeria and beyond to the pastoral life of the church, hence the need to get young people involved in faith formation, catechesis and theological education for the lay faithful of the church in Africa. Citiviz Tony Abba completes the report.
It was a conference that drew participants from across the country to deliberate on issues that will promote theological engagement, faith formation, catechesis, and other pastoral issues confronting the church in Africa.
So, to be hope of the church means that we have to tell ourselves our full story and to also accept that there are many things within our faith practice that are not entirely workable. And that is why I think of this program, Church Life Africa, as something wonderful, which affords young Catholics and even the older ones the opportunity to come around and to deliberate and to speak about church life and how we can move the church life forward.
Well, first of all, this is like a first time attending this kind of program, and it is very enriching, I would say, because it has opened our minds to the fact that we are all theologians, even though we are lay faithfuls, and the fact that we are called to also relate this message to others who are not privileged to be here, because it is a great privilege to be here.
As a matter of fact, I've learned a lot, and it's actually awesome for me because, it's beautiful to see young Catholics like myself, gathering from all parts of the country to discuss our theology, to learn more about our faith, to clear our doubts and, learn from the professionals. One striking thing I learned yesterday was from a professor. He said that theology begins from faith. That particular statement, that catchphrase has stuck with me.
I think there's more to do in local villages. There's more to do in other states. This is Abuja, it's the center of the city, and people are here, and we have access to information. But if this information can go further beyond the center of of Nigeria itself, down to the east, to the north, and you have young youth of these states talking, interacting, building their faith, I think it goes a long way to build our country.
With the collapse of the church in Western Europe and America, there is an urgent need for the young people to begin to own the church in Africa.
Church Life Africa is also about increasing lay theological engagement at all levels. We thought that if Africa will truly hold its own as the future of the church, then we had better begin to invest in faith formation, theological education, catechetical leadership of lay people, who together with priests and religious will form a formidable band of soldiers. In fact, the lay people would become, so to speak, the foot soldiers for disseminating the faith. And we do want to make sure that the content of the faith that they receive is, both credible and also solid. In other words, we want to be able to build a solid intellectual, moral, and social tradition according to the minds of the church.
The Council's theology emphasized much talked about baptismal dignity of the lay faithful, through which the laity has received their full membership and responsibilities in the church. These aspects of ecclesiology of the laity were recognized through our imaging of the church as the people of God, laos and the mystical body of Christ, and the church as a communion.
The theme for the 3 days conference is In Solidarity with the Church in Africa. The closing mass for the conference was officiated by the Auxiliary Bishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Anselm Omoren.
The things that this conference will help is to help you to be enlightened and to be able to share with others. I was telling the young children this morning, I said, by virtue of our baptism, every one of us has a mandate to proclaim the good news. Everybody. It's not only priests, it's not only catechists, but everyone who has been baptized has an obligation to proclaim the good news. either by word of mouth or by way of life.
After the conference, participants were hosted to a dinner organized by the Church Life Africa initiative.
Yeah. My impression of this conference thus far is I'm amazed at the enthusiasm of young and lay people who have participated in this conference. In their enthusiasm, I see hope. I see young people who are learning how to think theologically and be theological even in the way they appraise what goes on in the society.
With the platform's intention to select maybe 2-3 people to study theology abroad based on what they have on ground and what they want to work on, I think it's a way of getting our youths back into the church to know more instead of living for other faiths where they think they have seen the light.
At the end of the day, I expect that this conference should give us more knowledge so that when we go out there as Catholics, we're able to impact the new knowledge that our fellow Catholics out there are ignorant of.
So my expectation before I came was to see how we can address the African problems by looking at how we can adopt a unique African theology. And coming here, I'm seeing those expectations being met. The presenters and the personnel that have been invited to speak to us at this conference have been very, very meticulous, very apt and very brilliant in trying to see how we can design and adopt a theology that answers the African questions.
In Abuja, Tony Abba, CTV News.